Would you take Herbert ahead of Tua right now? And do you think there's any real chance Herbert does go ahead of Tua?
I would, and again, simply because I know what I'm getting in Justin Herbert. He's healthy, he's durable, and he's ready to go. Again, the concern with Tua is we don't know what we're getting, and it's too big of a risk in the top 10. I don't know how it's going to play out. I think it would be a team like Miami that could take Tua because they do have multiple first-round picks. So if a team is going to take a risk, someone like Miami has the ammunition to do so.
RC, what do you think? You watch these guys, you study it. We've obviously been talking about Tua for what feels like forever. How do you see that playing out relative to his injury and everything else?
Yeah, I think what's the hard thing to forget about Tua is that the first time we saw him, he was great, and he was great for the most part of his career. But I agree with Lewis and also Mike on this, that if you think Justin Herbert can be a franchise quarterback, a guy that can be a really good quarterback for your team for over a decade, I believe that you take him because he does have the durability. He's been available. And for the last 3 years, I feel like we've been talking about Justin Herbert taking that ascension and being the #1 overall pick, and he's done nothing but help himself since this season ended for Oregon. And so for me, I think if you can convince yourself that Justin Herbert has the requisite skill set that you need, you now minimize that risk. And even if Tua Tagovailoa does find a way to stay healthy and plays a ton, if you draft a guy early in the top 10 that becomes your franchise quarterback for a decade and a half, a la a guy like Phillip Rivers, then you have made the right decision, the right choice, and minimizing that risk might be what you have to do, especially in a year as uncertain as this one is.
Now, this isn't what we planned, but I'm being told that Dominique is laughing at this notion right now off camera, so I'm going to bring him in. Nick, what's your issue here?
I just wanted to get back on with my man RC, but I think it's absurd because I hear everyone saying the same thing from Lewis to Mike Tannenbaum to RC is like, if you can convince yourself that, like, what? Isn't that what we criticize GMs for? Like convincing themselves of a player when he's not there? Like you are just as likely, probably more likely to get fired if you draft Herbert ahead of Tua, and then Tua goes on to have, if he just has one good season or two good seasons and Herbert ends up being mediocre, you're out. So let's not pretend that drafting Herbert is less risky than drafting Tua. I think at least if you draft Tua, if you're certain he's going to perform, if he gets injured, you can at least go into your owner's office and say, look, it wasn't up to me. I can't control injuries. If you draft Herbert, and I love that we keep showing this same video, while Mr. T was going over how good Herbert was, he was throwing interceptions under all that. If you draft Herbert and he just turns out to be bad, then you look much worse. Like I would rather take the risk the high risk, high reward of having Tua than going Herbert. What do you think,
RC?
Dom, and that's
RC.
But see though, that's the yes sir.
Go ahead, jump in.
But see, for me though, that's the issue. We know about Tua's injury history, and I'm not saying that a team that doesn't believe in Justin Herbert's talent or didn't have him ranked that high on their board, should take him. What I'm saying is, if your evaluation says he is worth the pick, and it's out of him and Tua Tagovailoa, and you have those guys even, and now you look at the injury risk of Tua Tagovailoa, which is exactly what we've seen. It's been ankle. Now it's hip. And all we're getting now is some of these videos showing the good movements of Tua Tagovailoa. Listen, I run a training facility. I know I don't put out bad videos. If the video stinks, I trash it, I delete it, and I don't put it out. So I'm sure Tua Tagovailoa is going through his video saying, you know what, this is the one. And so since you can't really touch and pull on him and prod and see the MRIs and really do the work you need to do, if Justin Herbert is there on your board and you believe he's a franchise guy, you take him because you know that he can be on the field, he can be taught, and he does have a foundational skill set that leads you to believe he can be a franchise guy.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.